This microchip doesn't belong here.
What?
Take a look. Whoever put this in really knew what he was doing. Look at those connections. It could be used to store information. Input, output.
Kind of information. Government plan.
All right. So we watched Cloak and Dagger. And I got to say this because it's like I've watched a lot of films that when I was a kid and films again as an adult, and they don't stand the test of time, and they don't give me the same feeling as I was when I was a kid when I watch it, and that happens. And you're going to learn that as you get older. Right now you're a young person, you're not going through that. But this is one film where I watched it several times, and I still get a good feeling from watching this film. I like it. I really do. And I think a lot of nostalgia is there. First of all, let's go over Henry Thomas. Everybody knows, you know who Henry Thomas was. What's his famous movie that he's known for?
I'm sorry, what?
What's Henry
Thomas?
Thomas?
I heard screaming. It scared me.
Okay. Did you want to look out the window and see?
I realized I didn't care.
I know what it is. If it's over here, it's goats. But anyways, Henry Thomas, what was his famous movie that he did before this? What was he known for?
Before this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. E.T.
Oh, really? I haven't seen E.T. since I was, like, in elementary school, so
Yeah.
I did not recognize him.
Right, yeah, he was the one in 81. And, guys, I just recently watched E.T. for the first time, and I still don't get it. I'm sorry. It's like, I think, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people hate me. I'm not really a pet person. I mean, when I was younger, I loved cats, and you had a lot of cats, but as older I get, I'm not really that crazy about pets. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't, especially once you sign that mortgage on your house, you become very careful what you bring into your house, depending on who she is or what it is. And it really is. And of course, I have been on the customer service side when it comes to pets. Like, I've seen people pay $75 to clean their carpet for just a spot. Means the animal made a spot on the carpet, and they call a professional and pay. Now, when I was younger, I was the person who did it. Was $75. I cleaned to attach my tool was $50. Then you had to spray in a special organic, which you can get, at the Walmart. But back in my day, we had this special little stuff that you put on it, and they would eat the bacteria. And people paid $75. Took 5 minutes to clean it up. But it's like that. But I will never forget this as long as I live. I went to a lady's house, got called to do this house, walked in it. The 13-year-old daughter felt sorry for the dogs, and these were like Great Dane-sized dogs. And so it was raining one night, so she decided to bring the dogs in. The dogs destroyed the carpet, ate it up, did everything, did feces on it, everything you can imagine. Went crazy that night. Called me up, says, besides getting new carpet, what can you do? And I looked at her and said, lady, you are going to have to get new carpet. That's what
my God.
She said, no, I'll pay for it. I said, the special enzyme eater is like this much amount. And she paid $400, $500. And it was just like...
Just get new carpet.
Just get new carpet, yeah. And, that's where I was like, no. I love you, but
That's
not that
so
much.
Money.
Replace the kid, replace the pet. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, that's the reason I just don't get E.T. It's like if I love pets a lot, I can see me crying E.T. and everything because if you had your, but
I was scared of E.T. because I was really young when I watched it, but I always thought he was really ugly because he was like all wrinkly and like his head was a weird shape.
Yeah, and it's like I thought when I got older I would want to see it, and I tried watching it, and I was like, whatever. But Cloak and Dagger's not that way to me. 3 years later, it comes out, and I'm a kid, And so this is when family was renting movies, and our family rented this film, and I just loved it as a kid. And one day I was like, I'm just going to rent a bunch of kids movies and just to see how I felt. I rented this along with the other ones, and I find it smarter still today than most average kids films. And
it kept my attention.
Yeah, and I think one thing was the idea of the guy who did this. He was like, there was a film that was kind of coming in public domain, and he said, well, I wanted to get the script and do it for a new generation. And so he thought, instead of taking like an adult who goes through the whole man who knew too much type of deal, let's put a kid in it. And it worked really good. And I like certain things like the reflection off the other building, and you can't see Jack Flack.
I thought it was very creative with a lot of the Jack Flack like scenes and interpretations of like. I think my favorite part was whenever like the kid was hanging out in the car or in the trunk of the car or somewhere, and he was like, Jack Flack was outside of the car just standing against the wall, and then the next scene he was like inside the car with the kid, and I thought that was very creative how they just kind of teleported him in there.
Yeah, and one thing, if you want to go ahead and explain to the audience, explain who Jack Flack is, and one thing too is you remember the name too. It's not.
Yeah. So like. At the beginning of the movie, I was under the impression that it was this kid's imaginary friend, but it turns out that it's actually a character in this game that he's like embodying as his imaginary friend, right?
Right. In fact, I'll tell you, be honest with you, when I think what attracted me as a kid is most films, like if you watched a film and back in those days, they didn't understand kids, right? Like, kids were really in the video game craze started. The the mind games like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm trying to think what you call it. Role playing games. All right, so this as a kid, this is what we did. We played 5200 or 400, 800 Atari games, and we also played role playing games. And what was so funny at this time, I was playing a spy role playing game with a character that did really, really well. And so it was really funny to watch this film, to be around this kid's age, and also do the exact same things he was doing, and then also have an adventure as well. Most films in those days did not do that. They didn't understand where kids were at.
But this one hit it spot on.
It hit it spot on because... I mean, first of all, this is where you kind of get the nerd generation from, because, I mean, like, you take the character, he goes to the storefront. Before then, I don't think there was a character who looked like a real nerd, like a real guy. I mean, this guy looked like he ran that store. And if you go to stores today, and that's like 30-something years ago. And I think that's just kind of resonated with me, and they're believable because they acted like real kids. And that's another thing too, is like kids are always in films, they're always dumb and stuff. And I'll be honest with you, in this kid's situation, this is probably in that dangerous situation. I would think I would have the grasp on things as well, because we know movies, and movies taught me this and this and this, and this is the way we would act, and this is exactly the way he acted. Like, he watched all those action films, and this is the way he would act. And so I like that about this film, and I'm surprised it stands the test of time. But basically, like I said, Jack Flack, Lady Ace, I think I've seen people on the internet take those names, which is, to kind of give it to it. I mean, I've seen Daryl, which is another one, but it's not as exciting as this. I've seen Explorers. I saw E.T. This film, like I said, it keeps my attention. I just like it. It's really good. But getting into this, the two older characters in this, the elderly couple, were married in real life for over 50 years. They were in the film Psycho. Then the director went and directed Psycho 2. And then, of course, Henry Thomas plays young Norman Bates in Psycho 4.
Wow.
Okay. Brian May, the Austrian music person in this, does a real good job with the soundtrack. But let's go over a little bit of the plot. What's this film about? You want to touch on it first and give people an idea what this film is about?
Yeah, I can. So basically, whenever the film starts out, we get a little bit of our character Davey hanging out at this game shop with his older friend who seems to work there. Let me see the name. What was his friend's name? Was it Morris?
Yeah, that's right. It was Morris.
Okay. So him and Morris were basically like just talking about how they were setting up games and how they were he ends up saying that he was going to send Davey and his friend on like this special mission to like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was like, you gotta like do something easy, like deliver some mail and then grab him a Twinkie from the vending machine upstairs. So Davey and Lady Ace, I forgot what his friend's name is, they go and run into some trouble on the way there. Like, they get separated, and in the stairwell, Davey is like stopped by these foreign spies, and this one guy is like, oh, take this game cartridge, they're gonna kill me, they're gonna kill you, you need to run. There's a secret code once you get to, it was like 1 million something 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 number, and then basically just tells this kid to run and he gets shot. And then yeah, so that's the setup for our story, is we're handed this game cartridge and it's like, this holds secrets, you need to run now. And now he's this what do you say, he's this target now for these spies, and he's trying to run away, and he ends up trying to tell his dad, and of course his dad doesn't believe him and everything.
Yeah, and like I said, it's kind of like The Man Who Knew Too Much suffers for kids, and you know there's a lot of films that do this, and I think this is the first one where it involves a child, a minor. I think.
Really?
I mean, I think that's what's the brilliance of this is, like, you have the adult situation where, I can see an adult, but to put a child in danger like this, I mean, that was very, I don't know, ahead of its time. Because you just didn't do that. 11-year-old in this? No. But in this situation. But, his dad is in the Air Force. I kind of relate to that because my dad was in the Air Force too. And he's there is some mistakes here because he's a staff sergeant. And there's another place where they say he's a master sergeant, but he's not a master sergeant, he's a staff sergeant. And, of course, I like the fact that this is based in San Antonio area and not like in New York or Los Angeles, although the game place is a real game place in California. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, and
that's pretty cool.
In fact, there's like a whole slew of those game places still today in the malls there in California. But the thing is, like, to understand the technology back then, that's how, and one thing that drove me nuts about the film when I was a kid, though, was they kept on using the word tape. And that's the only thing that bothers me about the film still today, because, like you said, these were cartridges. And even when I was a kid, you put in the 5200, and of course, here's something too.
I thought it was just a time thing. I assumed it was like, oh, okay, they called them tapes back then. Whatever.
I think a Wisconsin mother might have, but he's out of touch.
Oh my gosh,
honey, you didn't get his little tape because here. And I'll tell you the reason why we did not associate cartridges with tape. I mean, if someone came up to me who said, I got the latest tape, I'd be like, of my 5200 game, I'd be like, dude, we'll kill you in a Dungeons and Dragons game, trust me. That's the kid, we bring the D&D game and just kill his character off because he's at first level, and then with a dragon or something, and watch him cry to his mom. I killed my character. He said tape. 2 reasons why you do not say tape. I'll tell you when I was 11-year-old kid. Number one, tape is what you put Metallica on, or the fact is we literally had computers back in those days, like 400s and 800s, and you used an audio tape to play games. And especially the ones that had large audio on it. If you had a lot of audio on it, you would have to use a tape. If it didn't have a large audio, yeah, you could put it on a 7.5. Yes, they were 7.5-inch floppy disk. If you can imagine, it held 9 games on it, 9 cartridge games. But cartridges were for playing games. Your complex games were on audio tape, so you never confuse the two. That would be just, like I said, something like a Wisconsin out of touch mom would. I bought you the latest tape. That's right. That's what they would say. It drove me nuts. That's the only thing. I always have problems still today with this film. Nerd alert! All right, so.
Yeah, I just assumed. I was like, oh, I guess that's what they called it back then.
We did it.
Okay.
We did it, and that's the only thing that I really had. That's the only out of touch thing I really did, about the film, which is very little to pick on,
Yeah, I guess it's not too bad.
I can imagine it would have been funny if the old people called it tape and the kids called it cartridge. That would make it more relatable. But that's the only really beef I have with the film about cartridges and tapes. And of course, I can't believe I went an hour talking about that. But so this storyline, they don't believe him, which is like I said, it's stolen from films like Man Who Knew Too Much, whatever. The little girl, Kim Gardner, her name is. I really liked her. I just
I did too, yeah.
She was not annoying. She's actually very common sense girl. To me, she, if you dated someone, you kind of, I'm not saying that I date children, but she's kind of like what you would want in a girlfriend because they're a step ahead of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't.
She seemed like she was very, she seemed like she knew what she wanted and she wasn't going to mess around with any, BS, That's what I got from her character, even though she was so young. She seemed really together.
Yeah, and it's that is another attraction about the film, where it's you get these films where the kid is so cute that it distracts you from the kid's lines, and she's not that way. She's just common sense, normal kid. And then
I also like the way she delivered all of her lines with just such purpose and attitude. It was wow, kid, all right. She literally would seem fed up with the kid she was acting with, and I'd be like, dang. And I've seen my dad likes to watch these Hallmark movies, and in the Hallmark movies the kids will be like, Dad, can we go play ball outside? And it's wow, could you really not find a better kid to act in this? This is so fucking bad.
And that's the thing too, is people forget children do fight and they have disagreements and then they're friends the next day. And that's kind of, and that's the way that she was. And it's she said, well, I came to your house because I felt bad, after reaming you out, the day before. It's but that's the way kids are, and through this. Thomas's character, I think a lot of people liked him. A lot of charisma, great actor. There's nothing wrong with his acting. I saw films where he did independent that are really great. I think I'm glad he's not one of those that had ever watch those child actors grow up and they grow into these horrible things.
Yeah.
He's not that way. It seems like he always stayed grounded, and he hopefully he spent his money well. Because you think he was in so many blockbuster films. I mean, he did A.E.T. E.T.'s was the #1 film of all time.
Right. I can't imagine how much they made with that.
Oh yeah, and how much money he's made off these films. I mean, this one didn't do so well. I was kind of disappointed because I like this one better than I don't know what other kid movie Explorers and all those type Navigator, Flight of the Navigator, those films. I just don't get them. This one I think I could watch this with an adult as a kid, or I could be an adult watching this as a kid. I had a mother had problems with this, and I'll talk about that as well. But going into this, so this cartridge basically is the MacGuffin in this film. So on this cartridge, it has
plans for an invisible bomber.
Yeah. And this is pre-stealth days, which is really cool, too, as well. Because, like, this technology is available now. And, in fact, you can link this film to the actual plans that this was. And so, basically, you know, these people are taking these plans, these, you know, they call them spies, but basically they're just taking these plans to sell to the enemy to make some money to the highest bidder. And so that they can make these jets, because this is like secret technology that nobody knows about, and except for the federal government. And so but you have to make a certain score to get to the plans, which would make it really hard too.
Right, it was like the last level, I think he said.
You have to make... But the thing is, worse than that, you have to get to that right score, which is really hard to do if you ever play video games, just to get to a certain score. And so once you get that score, then the plans open up, which makes it really over to do. But I can understand the secrecy is that people didn't know that this Cloak and Dagger cartridge, or not tape... It was just a regular cartridge, and it's got secret plans on it. So it makes it even harder to get to the plan. So I can see the importance of that. And of course, in the process, spoilers alert, our favorite character is Morrissey gets killed. And because of that.
Sad.
Yeah, sad face.
I was shocked. I didn't think they were actually going to kill him off.
Yeah, it was sad. I did too. And I think that was another thing too, is to find out that he is dead was really a shocker. Of course he is.
And for a kid's movie, to be like, not only to just be like, oh, now he's dead, but then be like, well, there's the body. Like,
yeah.
All right. Peter Pan isn't like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. This film is not only, I think, a kid's film, but it's also a rite of passage film. Like, this kid is like, it's okay to have imaginary friends, but when the crap hits the fan, you're going to have to give up your imaginary friends. Which is another hard story about this film, which goes into more deeper detail. Because, like, when I think of rite of passage films that are really good, this is up there. Like Cloak and Dagger, and then there's also Shaun of the Dead. I think of Shaun of the Dead the same way. Is like, when the crap hits the fan, it's time to change. You know what I'm saying? It's time to get into commitment. And the same thing with this film. Because he has his changes as he goes on, because once reality starts kicking in. And the first reality kicking in is his friend Morrissey dying. And I think that symbolizes, child accepting death for the first time. And it's really hard to do. And it's like people say, well, this is a kid's film, you should be enjoying it. I am enjoying this film. But at the same time, it teaches you something else, I think, beyond that, too. I mean, it's a good film. More than just that. But with Morrissey in the trunk, and let's explain a little bit about Jack Flack. He's an imaginary friend of this kid. And like I said, he's also a character that he designed for this spy role-playing game, right? So, on top of that, he's talking to Jack Flack, and we also established the story that his father is a widower and who's lost his mother. So one way that to cope with that loss, which I think a lot of this film has to deal with loss, is he talks to this imaginary friend. I mean, I'm not correct. I mean, anything else you want to talk to psychologically about this imaginary friend? Because we'll go into the rite of passage about it, because he's very important.
Honestly, it's not something that, they go over in the movie. It's one of my own personal, thoughts about this character. But I think that one of the reasons that he holds on to this character so much is that, and I think it touches on it at the end of the movie, is that I think this character reminds him of his dad. And I think he wants acceptance from his dad. And that's why he, has this imaginary friend who's, trying to guide him because he wants a little more guidance from his dad. And I feel like he doesn't really think that he's getting that. He doesn't feel very accepted from his father. And he's just trying to, get that from this character that he's kind of designed after his father.
Right. And like I said, it's, to me, that's where I'm saying where he gets into the rite of passage and where you have to let go of all that. I think the youngest, I mean, to have a child this age having an imaginary friend is hard to accept, but like I said, I think the dealing with his mom's loss is what, kind of brings him back, because I think his dad kind of explains that. I think when I was a kid, I had imaginary friend, and up to like 7 or 8 years of age, all my imaginary friends were British, though. I always noticed that.
Really?
Yeah, nobody's. I think also too is that's another thing too is like everybody around me spoke with a southern accent, and it just annoyed me that I always wanted friends.
You wanted something new.
Yeah, I wanted someone with British. Another thing too.
That's really cute.
Yeah, well, another thing too. I always think this psychology. All my imaginary friends were female. They were never male. And
really?
and then I think I always remembered that too. Is like, and especially that kind of thing. But when you get older, you just lose that. And like I said, I think with traumatic, what this kid was experiencing brought him back and to try to cope with what he was dealing with. And I think this movie really explains that. And I think that's wonderful. So what happens is, of course, they find his phone number because he left his baseball, in which he pretends to be a grenade, right? And on this baseball, it has his telephone number. And if you live back in those days, if you lost something, you usually leave your telephone number, and if someone found it, they can call you. And so this baseball means a lot to this kid. So that's how the people find him, and they call him up basically wanting a deal. And that deal is to, they've captured, of course, they find the walkie-talkie because Kim has the walkie-talkie. But through the walkie-talkie, they call him and say, all right, we'll exchange Kim for the cartridge, right? So I like this because you're really got two things you got to think about here as an adult who's watching this. First of all, if I give them the secret plans to the United States, I'm a traitor, right? Then number two, to my country. So that's something you got to think about. And especially it's instilled in this kid because his dad's in the military. Number two, if he doesn't give them the tape, they kill his friend. So what do you do to try to alleviate the situation, to do the conscionable thing? What does he do? What do you think about that?
I think it was hard to really say, like, while they're doing the trade-off, right?
Well, we're talking about what does he do to try to do, what's the conscionable thing that he ends up doing, which is really the right thing, but a lot of people would say that's questionable, but that's what Cloak and Dagger is about.
Was it him switching out the tapes in the prior?
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people, and that's what I'm saying. And we discussed this about spying. Spying is Cloak and Dagger, meaning that there's a law that goes above. Like, you're in that situation. He's actually has to play a spy, like a spy here. So he goes to the mall. Of course, Jack Flack says, don't give him the tape, which is the right thing. But then again, he's got to save his friend, which is the right thing too. So he steals the tape. The cartridge.
The tape. Oh no.
Real quick about this. Thomas is revolved around 2 movie games, if you think about it. He did E.T., which came out with the E.T. video game, which became the video game boom, which everybody believes the E.T. video game is what killed the original video game.
I I have never heard of an E.T. video game in my entire life. What do you do?
There is a documentary about this, and a lot of people have blamed E.T. for the video game boom. And to understand the video game boom is there were so many video games out there that they could not get their money back. And they thought that E.T. would be the savior. So they went to Steven Spielberg and said, we're going to make a video game. And then they told these people overnight, in like less than a week or less than a month, they had to make an E.T. video game. Well, the video game sucked. No one bought it. It was terrible, and the boom hit, and it killed. And if you go to New Mexico, and it was proven, they had take all these cartridges of E.T. and they buried them in a landfill. And
oh my god! So is that bad?
Yeah, so there's a documentary where they actually dug up the landfill and found the E.T. cartridges to prove that this was not a lie. Mythbuster. So you got him associated with that and associated with the Cloak and Dagger. The Cloak and Dagger 5200 game, which was also on computer as well, is so Henry Thomas was I believe that he made this film to redeem himself for help to make the worst video game of all time. This was a redemption for it.
Oh my goodness. That's insane.
Anyways, there you go. That's that connection to that. So he steals the cartridge. I'm sorry, he steals the cartridge. And I remember watching this with a mom one time, not my mom, a mom, and she said, "That kid's teaching them to steal. That stealing is okay. In this case, it's justified." Because you're not a traitor, and you're not going to lose your friend.
And it's a movie. It's not he's being like, oh, I'm going to steal this so I can go home and play it. No, he's like, I'm going to steal this so my friend doesn't die.
And I'm not listed as a traitor.
Right, yeah.
It's basically he pleases.
All of the above.
Right, and it's like, and that's something as an adult I think is really good writing, because it was like, how do you do this? Because if you give them the cartridge, they win. But if he doesn't give them the cartridge, they kill his little friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to touch on that, and then we'll get into, of course, he makes the change, and then, of course, sprays him with the blood, fake blood, on the which is really good scene. But
that was creative. And
so I believe this is where the chase scene starts. Oh yeah, this is where the chase scene starts. They ride the bus, which they've established that they do ride the bus in San Antonio, and he tells the bus driver to stop. The bus driver stops. I love this scene. And so he said, if you don't stop, I'm going to throw up. And he pretends like he's going to throw up. And the guy
let him off.
lets him off. And so they're literally shooting at him with a silencer in the middle of the daylight. And, of course, no one notices it, And, of course, they try to explain that that's a silencer. And then he sees all these people coming, so he has to hide the gun. So they go chasing after him. And that's where Morrissey finds out the truth, and of course, like I said, Morrissey is killed. But then we have the San Antonio river walk scene, which I really, really like too, because these two thugs are chasing him. So what happens there? He's like, he gets on one of the boats, right? And these two thugs.
Yeah, and they're like hopping around on different seats, and there's this couple that's like, "Oh, are you all right, little boy? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, this man's trying to kill me," and they don't really take him seriously,
Yeah.
But like, they were like, "Oh man, well we got to do something to help him," which was very odd. It's like it seemed like the only characters in the entire movie that actually like saw the boy, and like paid attention to what he was doing, and like we get to that later. But I thought that was very interesting how they, seemed interested and seemed like they cared from the get-go.
Yeah, there's this elderly couple, and like I said, they actually were married in real life. They played in the original Psycho. They've had a long acting history. You can Google them and find out more information about them if you want to look into their films and what have not. But once and one of my favorite lines is and this is very relatable because this is a cute little 11-year-old boy, and she's like, and this is the reason why you think they're on his side, because she goes, he looks like a pervert to me, and it's like, yeah, and I could see that. It's like, if you're a kid, especially, I mean, perverts, especially you're by yourself. Perverts are everywhere, right? And so that was this little woman's like, yeah, I'm gonna protect you because I don't want this pervert to because he does got this weird look. He's either gonna kill him or you do something perverse or whatever. But you're a kid, and that's usually when people are chasing you. That's either one or two things going on there. They're either gonna kill you or they're perverts or something, And you've been as a kid, you're very uncomfortable around people you don't know. You should be. Let's just put it this way. And so I thought that's a great thing. I like where she says he looks like a pervert. That's the reason why you start trusting these people. And it's really good.
Right. I thought that was very creative. I did like that.
Yeah. And so it's like, and of course, like I said, this one guy, these thugs look so thuggy like. That's what's so funny about it. They look so like they're like not really smart, And
no, of course not. There's so many. Oh my God. I think there were so many opportunities that they would have had to have either taken the boy out or to have taken the situation to not.
Yeah.
Such a crowded area, and they were like, oh, we're gonna shoot at this boy from a boat. Like, that sounds great.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna stab him on the boat because I knew that was.
And then what?
Yeah.
Just be like, oh no, this little boy just got stabbed. It wasn't me. It wasn't anybody on this boat. I can promise you that. Like,
right.
What was his plan after that?
Yeah, I mean,
stab the kid and then.
I mean, I said
away?
these villains were not too bright. That's what I'm saying. They were thugs.
No,
they were like
not.
your hired help, And so. And like I said, the guy who hired him, he's just trying to make money, off of these plans. Like I said, this is all about greed. I mean, these people they don't have any loyalty whatsoever. And so they're gonna use those plans to make money. So, like I said, and I always like the part how he escapes is like there's a pedal boat behind them. And you can see it right behind him, and he turns around and he jumps off that pedal boat and runs off, and we root for the hero. And they're stuck on the boat, forced to go a different way. So he gets out of that situation. And like I said, Morrissey, of course, is killed, and he ends up following, them in the backseat of a car where, like I said, Jack Flack is back there with him, and you talked about that earlier, with Morrissey's body back there. And they end up at the Alamo, and we'll get into that as well because so where he's in the back seat of the car because they drive the car there at the Alamo to make the trade with our characters that we thought was nice. Right. And again, this shows you these people are dumb. So we can go ahead and say these old people that we thought we could trust are the ones they got to make the trade with. They're the ones.
Right.
And
I thought that was a crazy twist.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
When I was a kid, I didn't either. And we're now seeing it 3 times. Of course, you expect it. But yeah, like I said, I still enjoy that. And so, and they start out to be the ones, and they right offhand. They play along with the kid and everything, and they sound like they have the trust of the kid, but basically the reason why they do that, they explain, is because they're not happy the way these people are doing business, and again, a lot of it is because they're dumb. I mean, let's just face it; these thugs are.
Seems like it.
Yeah, the thugs are dumb. The guy and it's like they could rip these people off. Basically, they got what they came for. And they're basically going to go to Mexico City, go across the border, sell what they've retrieved, and they're going to retire.
Right.
And I think too we find out that these were like former spies. Them two were, and they're just older.
They did say something about that.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly,
But with that in mind, though, he ends up with the cartridge again, and what they do is, and of course one thing too is the one guy has placed a bomb in Kim's house, Two, they find out, and he tells her not to go in the house and all this. He's trying to save his little friend and all this. But like I said, wants to do another trade with the people because they're going to. He actually has. Kim has the tape. The cartridge, and so they have to. They do this great dark scene. These older people do. They knock him out. They give him chloroform, which is what happens. And so they're ready to go on their flight. And so, like I said, he's in the trunk because Jack Flack wakes him up.
He drives the car to get away.
Yeah, he drives the car.
While they're shooting at him, and oh gosh, that was one of the worst scenes for me. Just watching him scrape the car against everything, I was just like, oh gosh.
Yeah. But they've established that he's in there. Of course, like I said, Jack Flack it tells him to wake up, and but pretend that he's still asleep. And they said then they're going to divide up the money right there, and then they're going to kill the kid. Basically, is what happens. And so then he drives off in the car. Mm-hmm. Right then and there. And then he makes the telephone call to Kim. And this is and of course this is where him and Jack are having little conflict here, where we get this scene right here. Because he's realizing that this is real. This is not fake. This is not something that, we're playing anymore. We're not playing a game anymore. And so this is, and he's trying to get hold of his dad, and he can't get hold of him. In fact, this is where he says he tries to call him Master Sergeant. He does get hold of him, but his dad still doesn't know about it. But see what it is, they planted a bomb in Kimmy's walkie-talkie. That's what it was. The walkie-talkie that she has a bomb there. So from there, because I'm trying to set up the scene where we get the transition going on. Very important transition. And because they're going to meet him under the bridge in San Antonio there. And I always remember, because you got the guy with the gun with the silencer there, all right? And so it's just really a scary scene, because he's telling the kid what he's about to do. He's going to blow his kneecaps off. And when I was a kid, I was watching that, and it just stuck with me, because this guy is not just talking about just killing the kid and for the kid to die easily without any pain. He's actually wanting the kid to suffer. And when you're a kid watching that, that's hard to take, that somebody wants to torture a kid. You don't want him to just die. He wants him tortured to die. Like, he's going to shoot his kneecaps, let him suffer, and then shoot him. And tell him how much pain he's going to be in. And it's like telling a little kid that. That's just cold and cruel. And I always... It's
wild.
Yeah, it's like, it always stuck with me. And I think that's the purpose of this film, was like, we want to scare the kids to death. So I'm going to use that scene. Oh, your sound went out. I can't hear you.
It's fine. I was talking to my father in the other room.
Okay. But that's what happened there. And then you're setting up this right here. So what ends up happening, if you want to go over what ends up happening, because the kid has a real gun in his hand. The guy is going to shoot him. And what happens?
His imaginary friend... What does happen? It's not like his imaginary friend jumps in front. It's like he's like distracting, like trying to like cause a scene, and the boy keeps looking over, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot at this wall." I don't really know what happened, honestly.
Yeah, and that's something, like I said, where you get the transition. And this is when I was a kid, because you kind of struggle with it. The idea was like, did Jack Flack come to life? That's what a lot of people think. But the truth of the matter is, the kid thinks he's so real. The villain thinks somebody else is there. So he's thinking, oh, he's not by himself. I better shoot him first. And so he shoots.
Shoot at this invisible wall.
Right. In fact, it could be a theory. Here's a film theory. Maybe the guy knows that the kid has an imaginary friend and decides, I'm going to kill his imaginary friend. That's how bad I want this kid to suffer. Like, he doesn't just want him to suffer physically, like he wants him to suffer psychologically, too.
I don't know about all that. I don't think you would put that many bullet holes in a freaking wall to prove a point about someone's imaginary friend. I don't think so.
Okay, but the simplistic part is the kid believes there's an imaginary friend so much that the guy thinks there's another guy there, so he shoots off. Because he's got plenty of bullets.
Yeah.
It's like with me, I got plenty of room on my camera. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to just shoot with you, but this little kid is begging me to give them a photograph, so I do 10, 15 shots, and I go back shooting you.
Right. Same
thing. He's got plenty of bullets, so even if he's not going to take any chances. If someone's there, I'm going to shoot him. So what happens? What happens to Jack Flack?
He dies very slowly for how many bullet holes he took, too, so.
Yeah, he had a lot of bullet holes. And you got the blood.
Yeah, and he's like, you can do this without me. And the boy's like, no.
Right.
And he dies.
And he gives this little monologue about how kids, they want to play games and they get older. So it's the transitioning from being a boy to being a teenager, basically. And which I really, really like. I love this scene. This is the reason why I want to try to set up, because I like this scene. I love the lighting. I love the action. I just love the emotions that this scene gets. Because, like, watching Jack Flack die is very emotional, but it's very necessary. And I love the way it was filmed. I really do. So, he's in a position. Now he's basically on his own, and of course, like said, he uses his smarts to get out of this. He gets the other guy, shoot the other guy by running in front of the other guy, which was really smart. But then, like I said, okay, so Jack Flack is dead. So now he's by himself, and he's realizing this is not a game anymore. We can't play anymore. So and then, like I said, now he's raced against time because he's got so many. Midnight, the bomb is going to explode on the walkie-talkie, and he has Kim come out there to the airport because he knows they're going out to Mexico City. The old folks are. So he goes out to the airport, convinces a taxi cab driver to get him out there because he's off duty anyways. It don't matter. So he gets to the airport.
Yeah, he said he was on the way or in that direction.
Yeah, because he got to go home. Time for his shift over. So he ends up getting his dad and his mom, her mom on their side, to come out to the airport where we have the climatic scene. So we've got this bomb inside of a walkie-talkie, and they're on the plane. The one thing is, well, before they get on the plane, how does he get on the plane? The old people are heading out to Mexico City. He yells at them and says, "Mom, Dad, don't leave me."
Right, that was pretty smart, honestly.
It's like, please don't leave me. So, and they're not too happy with that, but it's one way to get on the plane. He's got a bomb on a plane, and so he has to figure this all out on himself. And his dad ends up telling him, he says, "I'll pretend to be a pilot," because they're asking for a pilot to fly the plane to where they want to go. And one of the goofs of this scene is he tells them that he's got a license to taxi the plane, and you don't have to have a license to taxi a plane because you can a mechanic's taxi a plane in the garage all the time. So that's one of the goofs on this. So he gets on the plane, with him on there.
Well, maybe they didn't know that, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just saying it to be saying it.
Yeah. So he gets on the plane. The kid gets off the plane. And so what ends up happening is the plane explodes. And, you know, the kid's thinking that, you know, it included his dad too. And then the dad comes out in the shadow. First he sees Jack Flack. And it turns into his dad, and to me, it's like that scene's really emotional to me, and
I really like that. Yeah,
and it's like it's really a thing. But there you go, folks. That's Cloak and Dagger, and I hope we didn't confuse you a little bit about it. What'd you think of the film, real quick, before we get to this?
I really liked it. I really liked the whole gameplay aspect of it, how that was like a video game, but they were also like doing Dungeons and Dragons-esque type of stuff, and then it turned into like a real mission kind of thing. I really liked it. It kept my attention the entire time, so I'm always looking for that in a movie.
Yeah, that's I have to say, like I said, I'm surprised as a kid. I loved it, and then 30 years later, I've watched it a couple of times, and I still enjoy it. And if I had children, I would introduce it to them because I get it. But like I said, it was one of the first films to me that didn't really insult those type of people, like the people who played video games, who played role-playing games. And I think it addressed that because, like I said, most people who wrote those kids' movies, they were not like us. I mean, like, you take E.T., there's a scene at the beginning of E.T., they're playing role-playing games. And at the beginning of the game, in the beginning of the movie, in the same way like this, they start out with a role-playing game like E.T. and then end off with the video game thing, which is, like, very rare. And like I said, we had computers. You had 7.5-inch discs full of video games and that kind of thing. But so it's like real kids and real action. Using a storyline like Man Who Knew Too Much. Just a great idea. Just a great film. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to introduce it to you. And
I did like it.
I want to thank you for this. And tomorrow morning I'll probably get up and send you some money. And again, guys, I don't know if I did this already. At the bottom, click on the link. Get you 7% off with DistroKid. I'm telling you, under $20, get your music distributed through iTunes, Spotify, through iHeartRadio, through Amazon, all the outlets, TikTok, Deezer, Pandora. You can do it, folks, and we'll give you 7% off if you click the link. Thank you for watching and subscribing to the Coconutdaddy channel. Peace.